Hi, I'm Mikey, thank you for joining me. Today I'd love to talk to you, if I may, about my new sewing machine. So if you'll come with me, we're going to unbox it together. This is the Brother Innovis or Innovis A150. This is what the box looks like. Let's have a look at what's inside. Here I am opening up the box, and once I got the box open, the first thing I saw in the top was my invoice from the place where I bought the sewing machine, so I just popped that to one side. When you open the box, as with most sewing machines, you see this polystyrene top with bits and pieces packed into it. So the first thing that I took out of the polystyrene was the foot control. It's a pretty standard foot control. It's a grey one, which is nice, so I can tell which is which next to my other machines, I suppose. But it's a fairly standard foot control. Then the next thing out of the box was the power cord. Again, just a fairly standard power cord. I will take it out of the bag just to show you it. That is one thing I noticed with this. There are lots of plastic bags. Maybe a little unnecessary, but who knows. So it is a standard UK 3-pin plug, because guess where I am? Yes, that's right, I'm in the UK. Then the user manuals, I think you'll agree I did a pretty bang up job of showing them to the camera there, or not. So again, they're just the standard user manuals that come with any sewing machine. The Brother ones do tend to be really good. I was just about to pop the polystyrene off the top, and then I realised that actually there was another bag down the side. So this is the accessories and the tools that come with the machine. So this is what they look like in the bag, and I'll take them out one by one and go through what each one of them are. So the first thing you get is this huge thread spool net. I'm not sure I'll be using any spools that are that big. Then we've got some machine needles. So there's no sizes printed on the box, but the needles themselves do have the sizes on them. So just standard sewing machine needles. After that, we have a twin needle. Very handy. I do like a twin needle. I like it for decorative stitches and for hemming when I can't be bothered to get the cover stitch machine out. We've got a couple of spool caps, so there is a large one and there's a small one in this box. There is a medium one as well, but that comes already on the machine. Following that, we've got this bizarre looking tool. This is an eyelet punch. I didn't know what this was, and I did have to look it up in the manual. But yeah, that is an eyelet punch, for anybody wondering. Then we have a small screwdriver, so again, a few different screwdrivers supplied. Here's the large one, and there is another one in just a second. Also, you get an extra spool pin, which is handy, so if you wanted to use your twin needle with 2 different threads, for example. Butterfingers. We've also got a seam ripper. Again, pretty standard with any sewing machine. I don't tend to use the little tiny ones because they go blunt very quickly, and they're not very easy to hold. Then, of course, you get a lint brush, which is supplied with any sewing machine. Here is the disc-shaped screwdriver, so I'm assuming this one is for taking off the stitch plate off the bottom of the machine. So, now it's time to take off the polystyrene from the top. Can I get a drum roll? No, because I don't know how to do that yet. So this is what it looks like underneath the polystyrene. Before we actually get to the sewing machine itself, there is just one more thing in the box, and that is the stitch pattern plate. So this is what it looks like, again, all wrapped up in bubble wrap and then some cardboard on the back of it. So when I take it out of the packaging, you can see on the front you have all of the utility and the decorative stitches, and it tells you which buttons to press to get those. And then on the back you've got all of the different lettering styles. You do only get uppercase letters with this machine. I'm not really too bothered about that. I won't be using it for lettering too much, I wouldn't have thought. Then onto the hard case. So, again, another bang up job here of showing it to the camera. Isn't that beautiful? But when I bring down the top, you can see it's just got the logo on the top, and it just had some plastic over, and you know, it's very satisfying to peel that kind of plastic, isn't it? So, onto the sewing machine itself. I took it out of the box, and the first thing that I noticed really was the heft of it. It is quite weighty. It does have a metal chassis. It's the same chassis actually as my embroidery machine. So again, off with the plastic, and the first thing you notice, and this is common on any Brother product, so it's this blue tape that they put on everything. It's really easy to remove. they've always got little bits folded over on the edge. But when I removed the first one, what happened was the accessory box popped open and I noticed that actually there's another box of accessories in there. So let's have a look at what they are. So this is what it looks like. It's just a little pouch that comes inside the machine. When I tipped it out, I saw there were lots of sewing machine feet in there, and there were 3 little bobbins as well. So I like that it comes with a few bobbins. I do try and use the bobbins that come with the machine or the ones by the manufacturer, just because I think they tend to work better and they fit a little bit better. Then there are all of these sewing machine feet. So first up we've got foot I, which is the zipper foot. We all know what that's for. Then we have an overcasting foot, so making nice edges on your fabric. We have a blind stitch foot, so useful for hems, things like that. Monogramming foot, so any of the decorative or wide stitches. Button fitting foot, this looks different to any button fitting foot that I've ever used before. And then we have the buttonhole foot. So it's got the standard little spring on there, and then the back section opens up and closes. Pop your button in there and that sets the size of your buttonhole. So that's everything that was in the accessories pouch. Exciting, I know, you can't wait to get back to the machine. So I carried on with taking the tape off. There is a fair bit of it, but it only tends to be on moving parts. There is also a little cover over the stitch plate as well, just in case. I'm sure the needle probably is nice and secure in there, but just in case, they wouldn't want it to get lost in transit and fall into that little machine area down there. So then we've got the slide control on the top, so that controls the speed, and it also controls where your needle is when you're doing zigzag stitches. The button I touched on the left hand side was the needle threader, and then on the top we've got the medium thread spool. First time you turn the machine on, just like with any of these Brother Innovis machines, it will ask you to select which language you want. I'm going to go with English because that is my first language. And you can see it does its little checks and then it switches on. I'm going to go through in just a minute winding a bobbin and inserting a bobbin and threading the needle. So you can see the first thing I did was I took off the medium spool cap from the top. The thread that I'm using has kind of a small spool running through it, so I wanted the small spool cap on there. It's really easy to thread. This machine is absolutely covered in diagrams showing you how to use it and how to thread things, so it does make it really easy. So I'm just popping a bobbin onto the bobbin winder on the top there, and the instructions tell me that I need to wind the thread around the bobbin clockwise a few times and then use the little thread cutter, which is on the bottom, to snip the thread off. That does a couple of things. First of all, it gets rid of the end of the thread, and secondly, it holds the thread nice and tight so that when you move the bobbin over to the right, it isn't too slack and it can wind it. When you press the button, you can see it changes on the screen to winding the bobbin thread, and then once you're ready, once you've got enough thread on there, or once it stops because it's full, just press the stop button and again use the little thread cutter, excuse my arms in the way, to cut the thread off. Putting the bobbin in, this is one of the reasons that I went for this machine, because it's so simple to do. I know dropping bobbins on most machines are really simple, but I love the fact that you don't have to do anything with this one once it's in the machine. So you pop it around the little thread guide, and then once you pop your bobbin cover back on, that's it. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to bring the thread through to get ready to start sewing or anything like that. You just start sewing. So that's one of the reasons that I was drawn to this machine. It is really easy to thread. It's fairly standard, just like any other sewing machine really. Just follow the thread guides. Again, there are diagrams, arrows, numbers, things like that. I was very impressed with the automatic needle threader, well, semi-automatic I guess, because you do still have to pull the button down, but I'll show you that close up now. So once you get through all of the thread guides and you get down to the bottom, pop the presser foot down, pop it into the needle threader and snip off the thread at the back, and then when you pull down on that button on the side, it just pushes the thread through the needle and it's marvellous. And that's it. That's everything that's included in the box in the Brother Innovis A150 sewing machine. Hope you found it interesting. Let me know in the comments down below if you have this sewing machine, if you're thinking about getting this sewing machine. If you want to see more of the things that I've been making, you can have a look over on my Instagram. I'll link that down below. And I also have a page on minerva.com where you can read about my makes in a little bit more detail. You can also see the fabric and the patterns that I'm in love with and everything else sewing related. Thanks for watching, and I'll hopefully see you again soon.